This is Jackie Blundell from Delinea here with Chris Hughes from Resilient Cyber, covering all things identity at the RSA conference. Chris, super excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a busy one. I know we say that every year, but it feels particularly busy this year for sure.
Yeah, as a cowbell rings in the background.
Yes. We got wrestling rings, cowbells. I've seen it all.
There's some hot stuff happening out on the floor. So you recently participated in the production, interviewed for sharing some insights in our 2026 Identity Security Report. So we wanted to dig into that a little bit more with you. We had surveyed 2,000 cybersecurity professionals about their identity security challenges and pain points. Obviously, the Agentic AI conversation, can't escape it. In this studio, on the show floor, you have to keep talking about it. So, from your view, why is AI governance falling behind the adoption? Where are we falling short, and why can't we get it together on this?
Yeah, I feel like it's a kind of a perpetuation of past cycles, where like security is always very risk averse and a bit of a laggard or a late adopter. The businesses are facing pressure from the board, right? What's our AI strategy? What's our agentic strategy? There's FOMO among the businesses among themselves. Like we got to keep up with competitors because they're doing something with AI, they're doing something with agents, and security is just trying to keep up. And there's problems culturally with doing that. There's problems technically with doing that. Agentic AI in particular is like a new paradigm in a lot of different ways. And it's very difficult, and we're struggling with that kind of cultural technical debt that we've built up over decades.
You started to speak to my next question. What makes this Agentic AI so different from what we've seen in the past? Obviously, we've seen other iterations of technology where security is bolted on after the fact. We rush to adopt bolt-on security later. What makes this particularly challenging from the other waves of technology innovation we've seen?
Yeah, I guess on the bolted-on thing, I feel like every technological wave, security needs to be built in, not bolted on. But the business moves out first, we move out second, and then we kind of keep that cycle going. But in terms of what makes Agentic AI unique is a lot of people, it's just software, but it's not. Previous waves of software, even the previous AI wave of Gen AI and LLMs, give it an input, you get an output. It was very typical in the software sense where agents have autonomy. They take actions, they're using tools, they have memory, accessing internal, external knowledge sources, they're running on endpoints in the cloud, SaaS environments. That autonomy piece is the big one that's really that wild card for us. And the non-determinism aspect of it. It's just different in the sense that it may not do the same thing every time. It's going to try to achieve a goal, and the way it does so is not going to be something that we always predict or even necessarily want to do along the way. But it's going to try to pursue that goal and throughout its autonomy, take a lot of actions to get there.
Security professionals already had to deal with human error, human risk, humans doing things wrong, and we already struggled to secure IT admins, privileged users. So now we're kind of shifting to having to think of AI agents and thinking of them in terms of being privileged users and removing standing privileges. And now we have these machine identities, or really human identities in a way. It's like predicting what are they going to do and how do we secure them. So I think a lot of what I'm seeing is a lot of organizations taking the approach of treating them like human identities versus treating them like machine identities, even though they technically fall into the machine identity bucket. I'm curious if you're seeing organizations take that approach as well on your end.
Yeah, definitely. Some are even call them new human not human users, but new insider threats or part of the workforce, or however they want to phrase it. And a lot of times organizations are simply just giving the agents the permissions that the humans had. And we know from year after year of DBIR, M-Trends, all the reports, credential compromise is a problem. Least permissive access control has been a problem for decades, and we're back to doing that again. Except for now you have 10, hundreds, thousands of agents per human user, and we already started to keep up. It's just going to get out of control quickly.
I saw on LinkedIn this week that project management platform rolled out basically a AI employee marketplace. You could just download different AI employees. Think about onboarding, identity lifecycle management for human users. It's how do you do identity lifecycle management? And people are just downloading AI agents, AI agent employees from a marketplace.
Yeah, that honestly, when you say that, I think of the identity aspect with the supply chain aspect. Who made that? What does it do? What's its intention? Is it malicious? That's a whole question. And then of course all the permissions and so on that it's associated with are things you need to wrangle with now too.
Yeah. So where do you recommend security leaders start, or where do you see them in terms of how where they're at in terms of their maturity in handling this right now?
Honestly, it's it sounds very rudimentary or basic, but like it's the age old, you can't secure what you can't see, right? So visibility, just understanding, okay, what do I have in my environment? What agents do I have in my environment? What permissions do they have? What data do they have access to? What actions are they taking? And what context, internally, externally, what users created them, who are they associated with? Getting that in place, and then moving on from there to like move towards fundamental principles, least permissive access control, or least autonomy as we're calling it now. Moving towards zero standing permissions, ephemeral credentials in some cases. There's a lot of talk about ABAC, or attribute-based access control, or just-in-time access. So the industry's kind of like wrestling with like which way do we go with this? But we know that the ways of the past are not going to work in this paradigm.
Definitely not. I think we found too. There's also this. We found in the report there's a confidence paradox right now, where a lot of people feel confident that they have this problem handled. Where it's funny because we don't even have other things, basic things handled. But then when we asked more questions in the report, they were indicating they didn't have JIT or ephemeral access or some of those controls or capabilities that would better enable them to even remotely deal with moving towards zero standing privilege. So I think there's a lot of confusion about what you actually need to be prepared.
I think that's a bit of a human nature. Like no one wants to say, we're really not prepared. Like no one wants to say that.
I'm flinging it on the survey. I don't want to say I'm unprepared.
Especially if they're responsible for that. Like it makes them look bad. But then when you start digging deeper, as you said, like, well, how do you handle X, Y, and Z? It's like, oh, well, you're right. Like we don't have a good strategy for that, or we've always struggled with that. So I think just being honest with the situation, and they say sunlight's the best disinfectant. Like where are we at? Where do we need to go from here? Let's be honest about where we are on that journey, and really get down to the issues.
So where do you think we'll be in like 18 months? Still struggling?
I think it depends. Like the political answer, it depends on the organization. Everyone's different size, different scale, different internal levels of expertise, different resources. But I think we'll be moving in the right direction. It's just a matter of where the different organizations are on that adoption curve. But I think people are asking the right questions. Like how do we handle these identities? How do we manage them different than human users in some cases? How do we have no long-standing static credentials? How do we properly safeguard, store them? How do we handle privilege escalation? How do we bound the agents in terms of what they can or can't do, and implement hard guardrails in some case, hard boundaries as people will call them. So we're asking all the right questions. It's just a matter of will we implement the right answers? And of course those have competing priorities with the business. So it's always a kind of a delicate balance there.
Awesome. Well, really great advice and really good inputs. We're doing some fun questions at the end of these conversations. So we just launched our new brand campaign. Nothing happening is everything in identity security, meaning when identity security works, nothing happens. No breaches, no disruptions, no downtime, no bad. So what do you do during your downtime when nothing is happening?
Well, I have 5 kids.
So you don't have very much.
12 and under. So there's no such thing as downtime except for between 4 and 5:30 in the morning and late at night. There's no down. I'm just living in chaos all the time.
So you're just when nothing's happening at work.
RSA feels relatively calm. That way.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insights. Of course, for our folks at home who aren't at the show, you can get your identity security report from Delinea.com. Loads more insights from Chris from inside the report. So get your hands on it. And Chris, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.